Oh, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Cheers, my lovely transatlantic friends, and welcome to our weekly Booze and Schmooze. Nick Luck with you here this week in Newmarket, the headquarters of British Racing, at the house of my very good friend and TV colleague Emma Spencer, because I'm away on location covering Breeders' Cup Challenge races from here at HQ this week. Britney Eurton in Los Angeles, California. Mark Tuberty in Brooklyn, New York. Brittany, Mark, how's the week been?
Hey, Spank, you are full of energy. I mean, that champagne, the bubbles are already making you sprightly.
I'm a night I'm a night owl every week, the same.
Did we lose? Did we lose you, Nick, or am I losing you guys with my internet connection here today?
Well, I've got you loud and clear. Mark, have you got me?
I've got you, Nick. I've got you, Nick. And I have to say, you sound just as crystal clear. I brought this up before the show, but I checked out your most recent podcast. A lot has been going on in your neck of the woods, and I appreciated being able to catch up on it. But I don't know if you want to tell us a bit about that, but it's crazy stuff, huh?
Well, it sort of isn't, because I feel like everyone in the world is experiencing the same sort of waves with COVID-19, that every country is moving through different stages. And so everybody has difficulties and everybody has challenges to overcome, and everybody's governments are dealing with things in a different way. Just this week has just been a kind of seminal week in Great Britain, because our government have announced some slightly more stringent measures that haven't put us back into like total lockdown, but we're back under measures, if you like. So no more than 6 people can gather at the same time. They put a curfew back on the bars and restaurants, but then I look at you in New York and you're still not back to full hospitality. So, it's really just a question of, going to bed at night, getting a good night's sleep, waking up the next morning and realizing actually it's not so bad. Your life isn't, unless you're ill and you've got it, your life isn't that much worse than it was the night before. So just calm down, deal with it, move on to the next day. And one day this horrendousness will be over. But for horse racing, of course, in our little microcosmic world, we kind of like dissect every detail and worry about how this is going to affect our world and whether we can have crowds back and how it's going to affect everything financially and whatnot. So, we all worry. And that's why we started the show in the first place, but actually to try and cheer people up and be a bit more philosophical about the situation.
Absolutely.
I think I'm already making people angry here with my Lakers hat on. Robert is not happy. Hey, I'm sorry, tried and true Los Angeles girl here.
Do you think Robert's a Denver Nuggets fan?
Possibly. Or maybe just not a basketball fan. You never know.
Because it's game 4, isn't it, in the latest World Series? Yeah.
You were so close.
You're so close there. So close. So the World Series is baseball. We're not quite there yet. But the Dodgers clinched the title out on the West, the NL West. So that's good. But the Lakers are in the Western Conference Finals against the Denver Nuggets. But you were right about Game 4.
Oh, God, I was so
do you guys know that when I was a kid, what I wanted to do, the first thing that I really wanted to do with my life was be a professional basketball player. And so I was a huge Chicago Bulls fan back in the days of Michael Jordan. And I remember the first day of 4th grade, I was the one kid I thought that would show up. I had a matching Bulls sweatshirt and sweatpants. I probably looked ridiculous, but I looked across my first class and there was a new student who had just joined and he was wearing full Lakers gear. And I said, that's going to be one of my best. And he's still one of my best friends to this day.
And you to be honest, your career as a basketball star was going so well until you got to 5'5" and then stopped growing.
I joke about that all the time. Well, that's another funny story. But the last time I went to the doctor told me I was 5'11.5", and I was like, "Don't do that to me. Just round it up." But my wife has never forgotten. So I say I'm 6 feet tall. She says I'm 5'11.5". She tries to keep me humble,
No, just go over the 6 feet, right?
Round it up, right?
I say I'm 5'1".
So hang on. So
Robert is a Celtics fan. That's why he says take off the Lakers hat. I respect that. That is one of the longest standing rivalries in basketball. So,
before you all take the mickey out of me for not quite getting my World Cup series, whatever they are, of all uniquely American sports, absolutely spot on. When I all give you an education into cricket or rugby union or something similar, then we'll reconvene.
What do you think? A bat, a paddle? I mean, I don't. And then you go back and forth, and they're the longest games ever. I mean, they last days, weeks sometimes.
A paddle.
Okay.
Enough about what you're getting up to in your spare time. Let's move on and discuss what we're getting up to tonight.
Yes. Mark, what's on the menu for drinks tonight?
We're doing some cool stuff tonight. Our first drink is going to be a throwback, because I love doing this, to the 1870s. So we're going to be making a very old style of drink called a fix. And then later on in the show, we're going to be doing something that I know it's not super cold yet, but once it gets cold, I think you're going to be happy to have this recipe. It's going to be a boozy take on a chai tea latte. So it's going to be a very different night tonight for cocktails, but I'm really excited for it. It's going to be good.
I like it. And Nick, talk about our special guest coming up. Who are we looking forward to talking to?
We've got some tremendous guests. Later in the show, we've got a Brit, which is always good. Not one Brit, but two. Yeah. We've got Aidan Butler, who's been the Supremo at Santa Anita Park now for a couple of years and has been through a period of incredible change in California, and has marshaled that historic racetrack with great skill and great sensitivity through an incredibly difficult period. I'm very much looking forward to talking to him. And more immediately, we've got, one of the most famous riders in the world, and a man who's been associated with two of the most popular horses of the modern generation, American Pharoah and California Chrome. So looking forward to welcoming Victor Espinoza very shortly.
I cannot wait. But let's kick things off with a bang. Let's get started with a cocktail, and then we will bring in our Hall of Fame rider in just a bit.
Sounds good, guys. Yeah, so you've mentioned in the past, you've asked me, how did I get so into the history behind cocktails? And the truth is that sometimes when I learn a lot about one specific drink or style of drink, it's actually because I was researching a completely different style of drink. And the reason why that can happen is that there's oftentimes a common thread that sort of unites these different families of drinks all throughout history. So maybe I was doing my research into something like a sour or a daisy, and it's pretty likely that in that process, I would always come across some information about maybe a fix or a fizz. So tonight we're going to be making this old style of drink called a fix. It was popular back in the 1870s, maybe up until about I would say Prohibition. You don't really hear of it too often these days. But essentially what it is like a sour. So we're familiar with that. It's a spirit, citrus, and sugar. But there's usually a secondary fruit element that can come in juice form, syrup form, or maybe a liqueur. And the thing about this drink is that it's usually or almost always served over crushed ice, kind of short in a rocks glass. So we're going to be doing that style of drink. I wanted to do some seasonal flavors. We're going to be pairing orange and cranberry, a beautiful natural pairing. I know it's a little early to talk about Thanksgiving, but my parents make the best cranberry sauce with dried apricots.
It's never too early, Mark.
Never too early. So I'm already in that frame of mind. Nick, I don't know how much you can relate to that, but we get very excited about it here.
I like the fact that you guys get a kind of a pre-Christmas Christmas. It seems unfair that you get to sort of get drunk with your family twice in a few weeks, and
right.
You're going to do it once. Robert Segura says Mark's cleaner cut than usual. Have you had a little bit of a bit of manscaping?
I got my second haircut in 7 months. We were talking about that last week. I figured it was time. My wife, who does exist, I swear, Nick, one of these days you'll get to meet her. It's her birthday this upcoming Monday, so we're gonna celebrate a little bit on Saturday. So I said, let me look like some respectable form of husband that she remembers. But well, thank you, and thank you, Robert, for noticing. I appreciate it. So, guys, we're gonna start off our cocktail tonight. We are actually going to muddle our orange. I don't need a huge amount of orange flavor in here. It's to complement the cranberry. So we're actually just doing 2 slices of orange directly in our cocktail shaker, and we're going to give that a little muddle. Now, remember with this, we're just trying to extract the juice. So this is, I know we've adopted the terms forceful muddle and gentle muddle. This is a little bit more of a forceful muddle, just until you see that juice form at the bottom of your shaker here. Okay, so now we're going to move on with our sour element. So again, at its heart, the fix is kind of a type of sour. So we're going to be using lemon juice, 3/4 of an ounce. And then we're going to balance that with some sweetness. Now, this is where you get creative here, because in all of these recipes that you see that call for simple syrup or sugar, try other forms of sweeteners, and you're going to get a hugely different result. So whether it's honey or agave nectar or maple syrup, sometimes by making that slight adjustment, you get a completely different cocktail, and you can say that you kind of got creative and created it yourself. Mm-hmm. So oftentimes when people ask me to come up with a drink on the fly, that's what I'm doing, is I'm taking a basic structure and I'm saying, all right, what flavor is going to pair well with this particular cocktail? So here the honey seemed like a natural pairing for the orange and the cranberry. Now, remember, when we use honey in cocktails, we always want to turn it into a little bit of a syrup. So basically loosen it up. Remember that honey in its very saturated form kind of clings to the ice in the cocktail shaker, and it's not going to integrate properly into the drink. So you always want to at least add some hot water to it. I like doing 2 parts honey to 1 part hot water and just stir that until it's uniform. So here we're going to add a 1/2 ounce of our honey syrup. Now, by the way, that's something I may refer to more and more in recipes as we move forward. If you see a syrup, like a simple syrup that says 1:1 next to it, that's a short way for bartenders to express 1 part sugar to 1 part water. If you see simple syrup and it has in parentheses 2:1, that would be 2 parts sugar to 1 part water. So a little bit of the nomenclature there.
So the sugar is always first, or the honey's always first, 2:1, and the water would be last.
Exactly. So yeah, typically it's the sweetener first, and then the amount of water afterwards. Okay, so now we're going to add our cranberry juice here. We're going to do 1 ounce. Feel free just to do the ocean spray or something like that. I've worked with fresh cranberries. I'll tell you, for drink purposes, stick with the ocean spray. For the cranberry sauce, go with the fresh cranberries. It's quite a thing to work with fresh cranberries sometimes. If you boil them too much, it releases all the sort of gelatinous tannins and all that stuff, and it gets crazy. But so the ocean spray is fine for our purposes. Now we're going to add our spirit here, 2 ounces of Tito's.
You know, gelatinous tannin is favorite for the Breeders' Cup Junior Turf this year.
I don't even know how much sense that made. I feel like almost every week now, I say at least 1 2-word phrase that I'll see almost a question mark after it. Like, wait a second.
Well, I sometimes, Mark, it may surprise you to know, I get slightly teased for my verbose presentation on television, but I can guarantee that in no broadcast have I managed to get the words nomenclature and gelatinous into the same 5 minutes. So to do it while you're making a cocktail is
I appreciate that. I was nervous about both of those when I said them, but I got to tell you, so listening to your podcast, everyone is so well spoken.
He's been set up for this.
No, I have not. When I started, first off, I don't know if that's the mic that you invested in, but crystal clear, beautiful production. But then your guests as well, just very well spoken. I enjoyed it. I'm just trying to let you know.
When you're all of a sudden just like feeding his ego here. What's going on?
I'm trying to balance it out. 1 week yes, 1 week no.
Okay,
guys, we're gonna give this a quick shake. Now here's the thing: we are going to be pouring this over crushed ice. So remember, crushed ice, because of the lower or the smaller size of the ice, is going to hit the drink with kind of a fast bit of dilution. So we don't want to go crazy diluting it ahead of time. We're sort of mixing it here and getting it a preliminary chill.
Here we go.
All right, nothing crazy. That's not a shake for a long list of accomplishments. That's just, again, integrate it, mix it together, and chill it down. So now we're going to strain it, even fine strain, so that we remove any particles that we got from the orange there. This is almost like a Cosmo sort of color.
Yeah, it looks like
when I hold it up. Yeah.
Is it going to come out a color that you think you shouldn't ever put in your mouth?
I think, well, it's again like a Cosmo color. So if that's your thing, yes, but otherwise, I'm not sure.
It's like blue food. Like you never put blue food. You know, you never eat blue food. You know.
No, but I don't know. One of these weeks we can do a blue cocktail. I know it sounds crazy, but they're coming back into to fashion here. So again, a little.
I ever ate a blue food?
Blue food doesn't really naturally exist because even blueberries yield a purple sort of. Right? Blue is not. Yeah. Anyway, so we've got our crushed ice here. We do this is another funny thing about fixes. Sometimes these are the little differences between one style and another. They want some sort of fancy garnish. That's kind of stipulated. So what I like doing for that is this is kind of like a flag, we would call it in bartending. That is an orange and a cherry. So we're taking one slice, starting with that skewer through one side. You get the cherry in the middle and then go out the other side.
You're taking me right back to the 1980s, Mark.
Yeah, I know.
With your glacé cherry skewered in an orange.
Here you go, guys. That is our cranberry. I'm trying to show it off today. Cranberry fix.
There we go.
You know
gorgeous. Yeah.
See if I can.
How pretty that is. Wait.
How am I doing here?
Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
We're seeing stuff in Mark's house we've never seen before.
No, all new.
Cheers, guys.
Oh, I love it. Cheers.
Mark Tubridy, ladies and gentlemen.
Nice.
What do
Mark,
I like kicking off the show in that way.
How's the book coming on?
I'm working on it. I'm compiling recipes at this point, getting everything together, trying to do a little bit of historical notes, but I think we're well on our way, and it's going to be a team effort because you guys know you've got the knowledge as far as the horse racing, and really, I think one of the things that's so special about the show is that we get a glimpse into some of these candid moments with our guests that you may not see in a more formal interview. Mm-hmm. So I think that's something that I think everyone can look forward to is when we get this book together, little blurbs that, again, only could happen on Cocktails and Conversation when people are nice and relaxed, they've got their guard downs, and they've got a cocktail in their hand.
Who knew that Chad Brown loved a mango martini?
I'm putting that in the book. It's going to happen.
I feel like you've written the kind of forwards to chapter 3, and there's going to be like there'll be like a moody picture of you kind of going like this, maybe in black and white.
Black and white, definitely.
Ooh,
yeah,
gotta be black and white.
You could do a sepia filter on another one.
Yeah, and it'll say, "I remember when I was first given the idea to do this show," and yeah, I'm seeing it now in my mind's eye.
It's going to come together. Yep.
Yeah. All for charity, ladies and gentlemen. breederscup.com/donate.
Yeah, that is why we are here to help with COVID-19 relief and those in the hospitality industry. We do not forget that, as much fun as we are having. I know we're having some technical difficulties, at least I am. So thanks for bearing with us. I'm okay. Well, I think our guest, our very special guest who we're going to bring in shortly, is back with us now. Hall of Fame rider Victor Espinoza, Grand Slam champion, one of the only, Triple Crown champion as well. Victor, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Hello, everyone. I'm good, thanks. How are you guys?
Hi, Victor.
Hello.
We're on great form, Victor. Just tell us how you've been the last few months.
You want me to tell you the last few months or the last few weeks?
Well, either.
Whatever's a better story.
Whatever would be exactly. Whatever works better for this show.
Let's see. I started my Del Mar meet a little bit rough with the coronavirus. That was my worst nightmare and experience that I ever witnessed in my life. But then I got better, and then I pretty much continued riding at Del Mar, and I was having fun. And so Del Mar finished, and just take some time off and do different things. Like, I do some videos in Cameo. A bunch of people that request a lot of fun things, so it's fun to do all that cameo from some new fans from the track.
So what is that exactly? Because I'm not up to date with the hip social media stuff these days. I mean, I called TikTok Tic-Tac. So what is Cameo?
So Cameo is like Instagram, but you if you like your parents or somebody that you like, you can request a video for one of your famous, people that you can just send a message to your relatives or your friends. They, just like happy birthday or just some fun things. But then they charge you. You have to pay for it.
So is it a way for fans to connect with you as well? Because you've always been so wonderful of connecting with your fans, and trust me, around the world, you got plenty of those.
Yes, it's a new way to connect with everyone. And it's pretty much like Instagram, and before, because everyone asks you like, hey, can you send, happy birthday to my dad or, or your friends, right? Just simple. It's just, I give it like an example. Yeah. But it's a Cameo. So instead that you do it for free, then we charge you for just say hi, happy birthday. But it's fun.
Hey, that's what it's all about, right? But take me back to being at Del Mar. You were pretty proactive about getting that test before going to San Diego. You didn't ride that first day, and then you get the news, I tested positive. I can't ride. How were you feeling though? Did it hit you pretty hard?
Yes, it was pretty bad, actually. First of all, I never want to get the coronavirus. I was in quarantine since March, and I take myself very, I took this coronavirus very serious. But for the July, they convinced me to go to Los Alamitos to ride a couple horses, which is I never go there, right? But because I was, in the home and I didn't do anything, so I was like, all right, I will go riding there. And so I went there and I rode a couple races, and then Sunday I started to feel a little tired. Monday my body started like a little pain, and then Tuesday I was reading actually I was on Twitter and reading that Martin Garcia and Luis Ayas, they were positive to coronavirus. Right. And it hit me. I was like, oh my gosh, this is not right. Because I never feel sick this time of the year. And I called a bunch of my friends and the doctors, and I want to do the test because I was sure that I have that because, I have a contact with them. I just like for a couple seconds say hi and how is everything, because when jockeys that come from out of town, we all like catch up with little things.
Good to see each other.
Yeah. Even though I hate them, or maybe they hate me too, but not in that moment. And so it was a friend of mine that he owns a lab in Santa Ana, and I went there Thursday early morning, and I was supposed to have the results the same day. So Del Mar, the opening day was Friday. So I was like, okay, I want to make sure they're, nothing, I don't have the coronavirus. And somehow the lab, they would not get the results in time for Friday. So I was talking to the stewards and they said, well, you can't come to the track if you're,
right, which would have been opening day for the summer meet.
Yeah. So anyways, I have a long conversation with the stewards at Del Mar and also for the Del Mar people. I was like, if I have the coronavirus, everyone will have it, because all the jockeys that were there at Los Alamitos, pretty much the whole day. And I was the one I was there for only an hour. And so anyway, so it's like, you know what, my results they got delayed, and then I called a friend of mine, just a doctor in the Scripps in La Jolla, right at 4:00, and it's like, come over right now. We do the test. So I went there and do the test again, and nearly like 30 minutes, they called me. It's like, stay home because you have the coronavirus. It's like, don't go anywhere. I was like, okay, and I have like 3 or 4 doctors call me every day, see how the feel, and they really take care of me very well. But back to Del Mar, I insist that everyone should do the test, because if you would have the coronavirus, everyone has it, and everyone goes out. So can you imagine? It's like, it's just a nightmare. And I, don't know why Del Mar was against to do the test. If it was not for Los Alamitos, their other jockeys came from out of town, then yeah, everything is different. But my argument is like, I was in quarantine since March, and I just go there, and obviously I get it from there. And if I had the coronavirus, every jockey is in Del Mar to have it. I mean, hopefully now that I was spraying there, no one really has it. But I know a few jockeys that have the same symptoms as me. And then finally they did the test, I think the Tuesday. So they ran the race 1 week, and I was off. Because I already have the coronavirus. I don't even go out. And they do the test, and sure enough, I think 90% of the people in there, they have the coronavirus.
Such a mental roller coaster too, I'm sure, for athletes. Nick, that's what Javier Castellano was kind of telling us when he was diagnosed very early on with it. It was mentally more challenging than anything else. And Victor, for you, I would think the quarantine had to be tough because you enjoy traveling, you enjoy exploring.
Yeah, it was challenged, but I really don't. I was mentally really like prepared for get better soon. Is challenged to be home, but and again I had to take care of other people. After like 7 days, the past, then I was like, hey, I survived. I'm alive still. But again, I don't want to put anybody in risk. That's why I decided to do the test and just stay home. And And then I believe that everyone has symptoms. You know, I always see it in social media. They're like, "Oh yeah, I have coronavirus, but hey, I'm good. I don't feel anything." I think it's just, you know, upsets me because, you know, just tell exactly how you feel to protect others, not just yourself. Why would it be selfish and say, you know what, I don't feel anything? I think everyone has the small little symptoms, and it's just, you know, for me, I always tell exactly how I feel, and I would protect other ones because, you know, sometimes we go to the grocery store and I see older people in there, and you look at it, I was like, wow, honestly, like the coronavirus is pretty bad. I'm still like not that old and in good shape and everything, and it was rough.
Yeah.
I lost a lot of weight too, and to be able to get my energy back, you know, it was not easy.
And let's face it, you don't, you know, you're a fit athlete, elite athlete. You don't have that much weight to lose either. So I think giving everybody a, you know, a salutary lesson tonight, that you got to take this thing seriously. The good news is that you're looking hale and hearty. You look great, and you've picked up well, and you've got so much to look forward to. And you're hanging your hat on a serious horse again in Princess Noor. How good is she?
Oh,
Yeah, Princess Noor, she's amazing. I I was really excited and looking forward to ride her the first time, and then the second time and the 30. It's always motivating myself to be a better rider when I have horses like this Princess. She's pretty amazing. I don't know how good she is because, you know, the last two times that I rode her, I was just, you know, basically I went for a ride.
Yeah, you were a passenger.
You're geared down on her the entire way and winning by, I don't even know what that margin was, at least double digits.
Yes, many lengths, and it is always fun. Like I said, that's you know, it's always looking forward to ride a type of horse like her. Like I said, you know, for some reason, you know, the way that we, like, as a jockey, think when I have a horse like this Princess, then, you know, really I focus more in trying to do the best I can, to be the best, and also for her too.
But you know,
running this weekend, so we get to see her again on Saturday in Santa Anita in the Chandelier.
Yes, I am excited. I obviously for her everything is new because there's first time it was 5.5, the second time was 7 furlongs, and now it's the third time it's going to be a mile and 16. So it's going to be 2 turns. So I am, you know, excited for her to see how she will run, you know, the distance and basically going to her turns because she never done that before, and it's going to be quite experience for her, and hopefully she perform as good as she performed before.
And the thing is, like, you're playing it down because you say, well, I don't really know how good she is. You know what a horse feels like because you've got a wealth of experience. You've ridden thousands of winners, and you've ridden some of the great horses of the modern era that everybody, even if they're not massive racing fans, can identify with, you know, American Pharoah and California Chrome, and more than that as well. So you have an idea what excites you, and the bar's high now because it takes quite a bit, I'm guessing, to really turn you on as a rider. So is she, how close is she getting to that bar?
Very close.
Do you get off? Are you buzzing? Are you buzzing when you get off her?
Oh, for sure. You know, the first time, and I was kind of, I almost have the same feeling that I had when I rode American Pharoah, and the second time, but you know, it was excited for me. So it's getting close. Just see how she will perform in the next race, going 2 turns. If she performs as good as she been before, then yeah, I will be very high on her.
Kind of to follow up on that, what, in your opinion, Victor, makes a great horse? You know, you say that she gives you some of the feelings of American Pharoah, but like those types of horses for you as a rider, when you're aboard them and they're gliding home, what do you think it is that separates a good horse from a great horse?
They're quite different. You know, it's amazing how like like you said, a good one and also a good one. They're all amazing, right? But the way, for me, I acknowledge everything and I watch every move the horses, the good ones, like Princess Noor, the way they walk and the way they're like the body moves and they save so much energy. They're so calm. They're just such a cool personality. They don't waste no energy. And the body, he just like, it's like a wave. It's like smooth and they don't do anything. Even the first time when she ran, the good horses, they don't do anything. Nothing bothers them. And even in the race, they're like all pro, and they all they want to do is just run. And that's what I like about good horse. American Pharoah was the same. It was just like cool guy, nothing bothers him, save all the energy, and they used to walk whatever how I wanted him to walk, and Princess Noor is the same thing. And it's exciting when you have that feeling, and also when they're running, they're so easy to ride. I like, as a jockey, I just want him to, just to get that rhythm and let her run the race. And it's exactly what is happening right now. I mean, if you look at American Pharoah, when I went to Breeders' Cup, it was just float and run the racetrack. It was cruising along, and it's just kind of hard to explain. But let me tell you, that's the best feeling you can ever have, riding a horse. Is like like American Pharoah, California Chrome, and now Princess Noor.
And just tell me, I mean, obviously, to get to where you get to in your profession, you need to have that not just a good sporting instinct and not just a fitness and an elite ability as an athlete, but you need to have, in horse racing and as a rider, you need to have that empathy with the animal. Victor, just tell me a little bit about where it all started for you and how you kind of got that connection with the horse. Was it in your upbringing when you were in Mexico as a young man?
Yeah, I grew up in a farm, and I grew up around animals, and it's funny because like I believe that the animals sense that because it's been like, I pretty much grew up been around every type of animal, and even dogs. Sometimes like the dogs, they're like bad dogs. So they started barking, and this evening there's like, okay, they're like, stop. It's like for some reason I had no idea why.
The animal whisperer.
I mean, maybe because like I say, because I grew up in animals, and then I just have the love with them, and I just like all the animals. We come to be attached, as a young guy, that when I was growing up and playing with all the like different type of animals. So I feel like I'm not a threat to them, and that's probably why they like me.
I was going to say, Britt, Victor, you're one of 11, right?
Yes.
And so the other
Where are you in the 11?
Yeah, where are you in the 11?
I'm the second youngest. My sister, one of my sisters is the youngest one.
So do the other 10, I mean, do all your siblings, have they followed your career? Are they kind of tuned in to the whole deal?
No, actually no. In the early days, it was only one of my brothers in New York, and it's another one, but not much, just a little bit. But the rest of my family, my brothers, they never really it was never interested in them, because obviously they have their own life. They don't even know what it was like my life anyways. And but we kind of started getting a little bit closer, and they're like kind of started paying attention and watch the races after California Chrome. Believe it or not, I don't know why, but California Chrome bring a lot of people together, and many people love that horse, including my family. The press, like my nephews and all of my siblings, they're like, it started like following me and started following the races and watching the races, and every time that California Chrome run, they're all like, there. And and even when he run the Preakness, and that was the first time that everyone got together and watch it, which has never happened before. And from there on, every time I was riding the big races, they all like got together and watch it, and it was exciting.
I think that's pretty amazing because, I think that's pretty amazing, Britt, because you'd already had a incredibly successful career by the time Chrome came along. You were already a Derby winning rider. You'd already ridden a ton of winners, thousands of winners. You'd already had divisional championships, racetrack championships at big tracks. What do you think it was about that horse that made even your own family kind of key into it and identify with racing? What do you think it was about that whole story?
I think because he was so flashy and beautiful, and he just people love him. I mean, even when he was just like in the paddock, he'd stand up like, you know what, like always they called him like the King Cobra pose, like, yeah, I am here. and he's just people. He brought a lot of people together, and they love him. So. I really don't know why, honestly. I think there's the most famous horse that I ever rode. It was California Chrome. Everyone loves him.
Amazing.
Even though they're American Pharoah, I win the Triple Crown, but not much attention like he has like California Chrome.
He was an easy horse to root for because it almost made it seem like anything was possible. Because he didn't have this flashy pedigree, but what he did on the racetrack was flashy. And he had longevity too. I mean, we were able to see you ride him for years, a 2-time Horse of the Year, and taking him over to Dubai. I think that there was something about his story too, and the love you had for him, you could see it. It was contagious almost.
I know. I have a long ride with him, and I spend a lot of time with him too. And also, there's a lot of memories with him because I rode it for quite a few times, and basically, 2 times in Dubai. So, like you said, maybe because he has a long career, and it was not very flashy in the pedigree, but his looks, it was very flashy.
So is he the horse with the most special place in your heart? I mean, it sounds weird. You ride a Triple Crown winner, but is he the one that if you could take one horse with you forever, would he be the one, Chrome?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was the one, Chrome, because he put together and many people, and we basically was the most famous horse that I ever rode. And like I say, he bring a lot of people, new people in the sport, including my family, my nephews, my little nephews. That's how my nephew Asael started riding, because the California Chrome, because I started watching it, and he was trying to be a jockey, and many others, but obviously they had to go to school. But yeah, it's like obviously American Pharoah that I win the Triple Crown, but the California Chrome bring a lot of memories, and like I said, bring all the family together, and they understand now what I do for a living, because before, no. We never talk about horse racing. We always talking about, hey, how you doing? And, oh, are you okay? Yeah, okay. How's work? That's good. Oh, it's like, oh, it's all good. But obviously California Chrome, they're all like, now everyone watches the racing, and everyone is excited to watch it. Even I'm not riding, they always love to watch good horses. They follow a lot of horses now. Like I said, my nephews, my nieces, and everyone in my family, they never watch horse racing. Now they're all into it. And sometimes they text me, it's like, hey, what is this horse? What do you think about this horse? It's like, what? I don't even know. Pay more attention than me.
Nick mentioned all of your accolades before California Chrome. You were already an incredibly successful Derby winning, well-known jockey. What do you think California Chrome did for you for a personal standpoint and from a career standpoint? Did he, in your opinion, reignite a fire in you or put you more in the spotlight?
I think he put me more in the spotlight than anything else. But I think because California Chrome, there's many other horses that they'll be able to ride, including American Pharoah. When Bob Baffert, just called me there if I want to ride American Pharoah. But yeah, I mean, I think it opened it up more for my career, definitely.
Victor, you won 2 Kentucky Derbies for Baffert. You've got an incredible record with him. Tell me what it's like to be in the camp and out of the camp again.
Life is interesting, and as a jockey, is sometimes it's fun and sometimes it's challenged. Mm-hmm. But Baffert and I have tremendous success. He helped me a lot in my early career when I was riding all the thoroughbred horses. And it's just like anything else. But in the long way, he's one of the best trainers, and he's always had the best horses too. But and ups and downs, and the way we like, for me as a personal, I learned a lot, and it make me be a better rider. And I pretty much, I've been riding in California pretty much my entire life, and I know every trainer here, and I know exactly how the train is like, to be ride his horses. And then when I ride, for Bob Baffert or John Sheriff, John Saller, and many others, I know exactly each trainer how they like me to ride the horses.
Who do you think is okay, I'll phrase this differently.
What's the PC way of asking whatever you're going to ask?
Two questions. First of all, who do you think is the most talented trainer you've ridden for? And the second part of the question is, who do you enjoy riding winners for the most?
The first one is you put me in the best spot. But the second question, I just love to ride for my, others, my trainers like, Baffert and John Saller and John Sheriff. John Sheriff, he's the coolest person too. I like to ride for him too. There's only like, 3 or 4 trainers that I've been riding, and I'm happy with that because, they're so, they trust me. They have the confidence in me and do whatever is right for their horses.
And you create this really wonderful rapport between the team. I mean, I see you jump off of a John Sadler horse for Costa Horones, and you can just tell that there's such a wonderful relationship between everybody. Victor, one of the things that's always struck me about you, and I think we spoke after Chrome won the Derby, and just asking you how you kind of analyze a race. And I was taken aback by the fact that you said, I don't handicap a race necessarily because everything can change when the gates open and you have to be willing to adjust. And when you ride, you can see how much that plays into the placement of your horses. I mean, has that always been the way that you approach a race, or is that just pure experience?
No, actually, I always been like that. Since I started, because first of all, when I started my career early, I come from Mexico, and it was hard for me to read things in English, so I can't understand that. So I think that's why I'm not really into reading the form. Mm-hmm. I learn more or less visualize things and study the horses and just have that feeling what the horse is like to be on the race. Mm-hmm. And I it's kind of crazy because I memorize pretty much every horse how they run. And that's why I don't ever like really read the racing form, and if I do, it's just like 30 seconds in one race, nearly like 10 seconds in my way out. to go ride the race, and it's been working out perfectly fine. I tried to study the form one time, and it was a nightmare. It was completely a disaster. I mean, everything that I did that time, it was wrong. So I was like, you know what, I give up. I'm just continuing my, what I've been doing, and since then, and to this day, I still ride the horses the same thing.
Nick, it's fascinating to get into the mind of a rider, but I think we'd be remiss to not talk about what a great rider Victor is, but a great person, and how much you've been involved with the City of Hope and giving back. Can you just describe to us a little bit about when that connection began and why it's so important to you?
Well, I think it was like in '99. I was just walking in the town, and I would see like a couple of young kids and wheelchair, one, and the other one who was walking, and I guess they would ask me the questions about, where was the, one of their places they were looking for, and I was just started talking to them. Somehow we end up to having a long conversation. And there's two young kids that have cancer, and the parents. So I was like really interested. I never see any kid with cancer. I never see anything like that before. I never thought that this thing exists. I mean, we hear about it, but I never see anyone that have it. And for that time on, I went home and just started to think about it. It's like, wow, that is just crazy how this disease work. It's like, I mean, can you imagine those young kids that, they just don't have future. They just go day by day, and they were so happy. and then for me, I like thinking about it, like going to the races, and if I lose a race, then I'm not very happy about it. And many others is like, life is unique, and it's more important there. Just, obviously I like to win, but if I lose, I'm not going to be upset about it. And so it really changed my my life, the way I think. And then I started like studying and reading about this disease, and how many hospitals there were in LA. And just happens the one who was right next to me, it was City of Hope. And so I started like, contact them and connect with them. And I decided to donate my 10% of my earnings. It's many years ago. And then the one time they invited me to go there, and it was tough. It was pretty tough. it was rough to see those kids in there. It was just, it just break my heart. And that it was a couple of nights that I couldn't even sleep, I'll be honest, because, just to think about it. But anyway, so I started to donate I was like, okay, it's not going to affect my life. I grew up broke anyway. So it's like, what's a big deal to donate to them? To me, maybe it's not, but to them, it's a lot. So at least it helped. Sometimes, I think I buy things that I don't want it, that I don't need. I just want it. And then for that reason, I was like, maybe those ones that can help a little bit more than me. And I continued to do that. And I think I think it was 2013, someone in the media there they interviewed me, and they told me, it's like, well, why you say it now? It's like, I don't even know who says that anyways, because I never like mentioned that I was donating to the City Hope or the help the City Hope, right? So they want the social media. It's like, why would you say that right now? Why you do that for media or the attention? I feel like tell it like, hey, get out of here and not talk to me. But I'm kind of nice, so I respect his question. And I was like, okay. For me, it was not even like, I've been doing it for so many years. Why would I want attention anyways? And I'm not encouraging anybody to do that, because it has to come from your heart. I mean, nobody can force me. Nobody told me, hey, do it. It just happens. And I do it for my heart, and I will continue as long as I ride.
Victor, you've been on an extraordinary journey the last decade or so. You know, you were an incredibly successful rider, but a rider with, you know, just a profile of sorts. And then suddenly, two great horses, your profile goes sky high. You go on Dancing with the Stars. You have the profile to give an organization like City of Hope a bigger platform. You have a really serious injury that threatens to derail your entire life, let alone your career. You have been caught up in the COVID maelstrom. You've recovered from that. You've come back with another tremendous racehorse to ride. It's been, as I say, an extraordinary journey. At many points in that process, you must have thought of whether you were going to continue. What is it that makes you want to continue as a rider now? Because you've achieved everything there is to achieve. So what is it that still spurs you on? What is it that still makes you want to strive to win races and be a competitive athlete?
Everyone asks me the same questions. Many people, obviously. I think I think it's more like just help the young guys, the new jockeys that come along, and I try to help as much as I can. As right now that I'm still riding, and it's one of the reasons, but no, it's not all that reason, right? Because the day I quit, I probably never gonna go back to the track. I think for me to continue is the love for the horses, and the good ones and the bad ones too. I love horses. That animals is just my love for them, and especially when have that a good one like a Princess Noor. But I think I still after my accident I was not planning to come back. I want to just get better and have a normal life. But after the time go by and I started feeling good, and it's like, okay, why not? I'm gonna give another shot, because I believe that I still have the energy and the power to to ride all these amazing horses. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna give a shot. If I can't do it, then I'll stop. But you know what? I'm feeling pretty good, and I continue. I don't know. I can't even make plans to stop riding, because every time I make plans, it never happens. So I just want to go day by day and then see what happens.
I love it. And the reception when you came back, your first ride back at Santa Anita after injury was quite something to see. You have a lot of fans that want to continue riding too. I love what you had to say, for the love of the horse. That's why you do it. That's what people need to realize is those like you, trainers, owners, it's at the end of the day, all for the love of the horse. Victor, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
We could talk to you for hours.
I know, right? I mean, honestly, like, I think it was after I win the Triple Crown, I feel like I have a lot of responsibility, and I feel like it was my duty to promote the sport as much as I can, because I was talking to one of the oldest guy that used to play baseball many years ago, that I met him in New York, and he was telling me that there's like, oh my gosh, I always want to be a jockey, but this, I asked him, I said, why you want to be a jockey? He said, because the jockeys, they used to make $20,000 a year, and the baseball players, I have a contract only for $6,000 a year. I was like, wow. And it's like, what happens now? I say, oh, that's when they're opposite way. And it kind of it got me think about it. Obviously that night I was thinking about that, and I always think about it. It's like, well, now I kind of have a little pressure to promote and continue to have that face to the sport, horse racing.
Victor, thank you so much for joining us. You've been an absolute superstar. You've lit up cocktails and conversations for week 22. We'll see you again very soon.
Absolutely. Hey, good luck this weekend.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Hey, Brittany, we've been blessed. We really have been blessed the last few weeks, and Mark's back with us We've had some of the great names on this show, from Frankie Dettori to Chad Brown, from Bob Baffert to Angel Cordero, and everybody else in between. You know, we've got some weeks left in us, I reckon. So you've got to tell us who has not been on the show that you desperately want to see on Cocktails and Conversation. You dictated. It's your show. You're the only reason why we keep doing this, because you keep telling us that you want more. So you tell us who you want to see, and we'll get them on for you. It doesn't matter how outlandish the situation is.
We will work our magic. Speaking of magic, we've got a big supporter of our show. I think he's with us. Can we bring him in while we make another cocktail? Yes, we can. Aidan Butler, Chief Strategy Officer of the Stronach Group, and I'd say our number one fan favorite here.
Number one supporter, and it's a little tough following Victor, so I know what he gave me this week. I don't know who else was going to come in after him, but I mean, he's such a good guy, and I actually spent a lot of time with him at Santa Anita when we all lived together and during the COVID bubble. So yeah, no, he's a real good guy.
That had to have been such a unique experience, though, for you, Aidan. I mean, you pretty much created the first sports bubble before they became a thing in the NBA and MLB.
It was, I think, it was one of the best things we ever did. I think the closeness that we came, the camaraderie. I mean, generally, people are pleasant at the racetrack, as you guys all know, but there can also be a lot of negativity and different sides. And when things go wrong, people immediately, it's us versus them. But I think for me, it was cool to be able to have that experience and spend that much time with the whole Jocks colony. And there are some real characters in there, as you can imagine. And it's given me a new impression, or a better understanding of what they go through day to day in their own internal competitions and how hard it is to be a jock. And I guess good job I'm so big and overweight, otherwise, because I don't think I'd have ever been able to hack it as one.
I don't suppose you could ever have imagined quite what was in store for you when you took the role at Santa Anita, Aidan. Just sort of just take us back, just wind back a couple of years and just talk me through a little bit of the process, because we were talking about Victor Espinoza's journey. You turn up to run a racetrack and run a division of the Stronach Group.
Yeah.
What you've had to kind of oversee, marshal, has been, frankly, pretty mind-bending, really.
Well, I kind of, and by the way, can I start drinking my beer? I've been waiting like
yes, drink.
Yes. In the title, and okay, so good. What? I'd already drank on it. I was like, Mark's here, and
It's an essential part, Aidan. You go for it.
You're gonna need it.
I actually signed up as the Chief Strategy Officer, which is a totally different title than what I do now. My kind of original job for the corporation, for the Stronach Group, was to look at the overall vision of what we do as a company and where we can take it and how we can modernize it. And then unfortunately, we had the trouble at Santa Anita in 2019, and I was asked if I'd come out of it. And that's, I think, when I first met you, Nick, not long ago. I first met all of you, actually. But I came out here, and it was thrown into the deep end. And then a few months after that, probably 6 months after that, we stabilized it and we looked at all the things we could do better. And then I must be a glutton for punishment. They asked me if I'd stay and take over California. So I did, thinking, well, I actually said this, and I can't believe I said it now, but I said, wow, at least it can't get any worse than that. Right? So then roll on, pandemics, fires, you name it. But no, look, I've really fallen in love with this place. And for as long as I'm out here, I'll kind of do everything I can. And I have the added bonus of living at the track still. So I can really get to feel the ups and the downs kind of close quarters.
Do you think, though, like, because I spent a bit of time with you, and for just in case there's any conspiracy theorists out there, you and I didn't know each other back home. So because you've been in the US for a long time now, and
I just saw Nate Newby's name come on the screen. Sorry, I can't.
I know, this is ridiculous. So we're now going
to be a the bus question.
Oh, there's going to be plenty of those, I'm sure. I think we got lots of friends watching the show, ready to kind of harass you.
British, exactly.
Definitely going over on the 4-letter word. Yeah. Sorry, Nick. No, we didn't, mate. No, but we've got a lot of friends in common. I'm really close with the Tory. I worked at 38 racetracks in the UK, but I was over there. I was really the enemy. I was a bookie, so I was kept away from the fancy people like Nick.
But the thing, but the thing is, right? So, as an on-course bookmaker here, and I've been talking about this a lot in the last few weeks because they've been having a rough time because obviously no crowds means no bookies. So, but you have to be a lover of the game. So you actually have to have a feel for the sport.
Yeah.
And I've seen you with your ponies at Santa Anita as well. You love riding, and you were a handy rider as well. So without actually having a love of the animal and without actually having a love of the game, do you think you'd have been able to do this job the last couple of years?
No way.
Suit that's come
even with the love I have for it, there's Stronach. Even with the love I have for it, Nick, it was tough. You've really got to do what we all do. You've really got to have that extra part of you that gets you out of bed in the morning when things are tough, and gets you going and keeps you moving and innovating. And I think if you don't, and this is not casting aspersions on anyone else who works in the industry worldwide, but if you don't, that's when trouble arises. Things get stagnant. People don't change. People don't adapt. People don't evolve. And even though we're an older industry, there's Dennis.
Oh wait, this is a whole other topic.
That's the new turf shoot.
This is a whole separate topic.
Yeah, we'll talk about the turf track in a minute.
Jump to that, but no, Nick. In short, mate, if you don't have a love for it, it's difficult to really make things better. I think you just start coasting along, and then that's how things don't be as good as they should be, or could be.
Yeah. I'm sure having the knowledge of the betting aspect of things, because that really is one of the legs that horse racing stands upon. It is the wagering aspect of our sport, but also the love for the horse. And you can see in that photo with Stone that you absolutely have one. Tell us who Stone is, where he came from.
I needed a track pony when I got here, so I adopted him at the TAA to find me a pony, and he's obviously an ex-thoroughbred. He raced once at Keeneland, and as bad as a racehorse for speed he was, he makes up for in personality. He's the biggest doofus. I mean, he really is. He's not a very good model. How silly this horse is. And I've started now posting. He does so many things, and I've just started taking credit for them as though I trained him. Like he can dribble on demand. He yawns on demand, and he also can stick his tongue out and just like hang it out on demand, which none of those are really what any sort of professional horse trainer could do. So I've claimed them as my like special skill set with regards to training.
There could be a movie application there.
Yeah. And it's really quite bizarre. So I've got two. I've got Stone, and I've also got a paint quarter horse called Sierra. We call him Sancho. So yeah, I've got two, and I love them to bits. I see them every day. When I'm having a bad day, I go and hang with them. I actually even turned my front yard into a paddock. I had a fence put up. So when I was working from home at the thick of it, and we were keeping everybody away from the grandstand, I just turned the horses out in the front yard. They did quite a bit of damage to my furniture, but other than that, it was great. It was good fun.
Since being at Santa Anita, Aidan, have you learned more about the horses, the people? What is your main? I mean, this is kind of a loaded question, but your takeaway from your time of being at Santa Anita?
I've learned so much, Britt. I mean, even though I've been on 3 generations in horse racing, I was a licensed bookie. I was a licensed professional gambler on horses, so I understood odds, gambling, markets, how things put together, early tissues, early prices, every form of communication, both verbal and even sign language to work around the gambling aspect. What I knew about track surfaces, medication reform, you wouldn't really want it to have dined out on it. But like anything else, if it's fundamental to the survival of your sport and the protection of the horses, you become a quick bloody study. And I've really, I've got so many. We've got lucky at my group. We're a big company, so we've got so many talented people like Dr. Benson, Craig, people who have been around this industry. There for years, and I get on the calls and I'm like, blah, like talking medication, and Dr. Benson lets me go, and at the end she just like slightly adjusts what I said. But yeah, I'm never that far off now. I'm getting good at it.
There you go. Go ahead, Nick.
No, go.
Mark, you go. Mark, somebody go.
I know, right?
No, Nick, I've been freezing a lot lately, so I'm scared to say anything.
I couldn't tell whether Britney was. That's a Lakers cap, right? The Lakers, yeah.
It is. Yeah. It's a. What is that, camo? I can't really see from here.
It is. So what's funny about this is I was at the Lakers game 4 years ago during the election. They handed these out, so I don't know. an appropriate hat for November.
I can't vote, so don't worry about me. I'm not going to get offended, nor can Nick.
Yeah.
But I did back up that photo because I think it's truly remarkable what you're doing with the turf course. We're working on right now with track superintendent Dennis Moore, who's a true legend when it comes to when it comes to surfaces. But if we can bring that photo back up again, what is happening here in regards to the turf course? What are you working on?
There are a couple of things happening in this photo. First, Dennis is covering his second chin, which he's quite good at, and wanting me to let you all know that that's actually not the case. No. What they did is actually, you can see it just south of the dirt chute, the 7 furlong chute. They're actually putting in a turf 6 and a 6.5 start, and it's on a slight curve. It's very, very close, if not identical, to the curvature of the Hollywood Park chute. Pays a little bit of homage to that. Give us so much more programming to have these extra distances. As you know, since we stopped using the sprint 6.5 down the hill, we've really only been using the 5.5, and it's the difference between a 5.5 and a mile is too great. There are so many horses that would benefit from a middle distance, and you get to 6.5, and now you open it up to true sprinters and true milers. So I'm really looking forward. And they've actually, I was going to get you a photo earlier. They're actually putting the turf down next week. So this will be ready for December.
You kind of set me up, and I'm going to ask the annoying question. Is there any chance at some point in time that you could come back down the hill?
Hopefully, Brit. Yeah, and I think getting this chute, which will would lessen the need for it, would make a big difference. I think the downhill sprint is super special race, and I think if it was used just for super special races, every now and then as a spectacle, I think it would be a great thing. I think if you use anything too often, especially something that is a little specialized like that, maybe adds a little more worry to it. So I'm excited that I think if we get this 6.5 on the oval, we could potentially have them both, and then that'll give us some really good options.
That's so exciting. Yeah, you have
don't hold me to it, because I keep, as you know, you are setting me up, and I will be calling you later to complain about that question.
Well, I actually got that question from somebody else.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. What, Clark's or in my office?
I did. How has it been for you? There's so many personalities at the track. You talk about getting to know the jockeys during the quarantine and in that little bubble you created. Obviously, plenty of personalities when it comes to the trainers. How has it been working with, everybody there in Southern California?
It's been brilliant. I mean, there are some tough personalities, but there's some real characters, and I do love that. I think Nick will attest to the characters in English horse racing, and just the amount of they're kind of not crazy, but there's some personalities out there that are truly eccentric, and I think there's not that many good eccentrics left in the world. I am not quite one, but I come from a long line of eccentric people, and when I get out there, I really appreciate. What you say, Nick?
So close.
I really appreciate people who are slightly different, and we've got a good collection of them at Santa Anita. I mean, we've got some great personalities. Obviously not now, but watching people hold court in the mornings, just coming out with some really funny stuff. That's what makes it. That's what makes it such a special game, and being part of that and close to it. And I think I wouldn't say I'm everybody's friend out here, but I think I've made some really good friends and some good relationships.
Well, they can't not like you. That's the thing. They can just
You'd
not.
Be surprised, mate.
Well, the thing is that you can just excuse them by saying you don't quite get me.
Well, that's what it is. It's the accent thing, right? I get myself out of trouble quite often with the accent, and I'm putting on a posh one because Nick's here. Ordinarily, it would be a little more piratey.
It'd be a bit more proper.
It smooths things over.
Yeah.
So he does have a badge that says the pirate on it. So
here we go. Nate Newby can go collect, because I'll say, nobody can really understand your full Brummie accent, the full West Midlands.
Exactly.
Yeah, Brummie accent. He's not best since he went to California there, hasn't he?
Exactly. Well, yeah, the joke is obviously where Nick's from, and especially when I was single, I'd go out and people would say, "Oh, you're from England?" I'd say, "Yeah." I've got my accent. I was like, "You know where the Queen lives?" They'd say, "Yeah." I'm like, "I'm nowhere near there. You keep going north, everybody gets really hairy." That's where I'm from. I'm from a lot further north. But no, Nick's got an accent I aspire to. I'll be practicing later.
Same here. I work on it. It doesn't sound quite like.
Aidan has a life that I aspire to.
The only good thing about where I come from was never really a place that, you know, people would visit there a couple of times a year to visit their stolen goods. That was really how it was described. But, since Peaky Blinders came out, that's really shone a little bit of a call of light on my town, which is Sharon. Yeah, because she did it first. But no, Peaky Blinders is good because that's about horse racing. It's about Birmingham. So it's
and the betting.
Yeah, betting. Here's a trivia piece. My grandfather was a bookie in Birmingham at the time of that show, early 1900s. Oh.
Wow. Is he in the show? Like, is there a character based on him?
I'll make one up for you if I'd have thought about it yet, but probably.
So, Aidan, you're third generation West Midlands bookmaker. So you would remember when you were in the ring when Tic Tac was still alive. So for anybody who doesn't know, Tic Tac is the sign language between bookmakers in the ring in England to communicate to each other what the odds are that they're laying, and it's kind of a
Do you want a demo, Nick?
Yeah. Well, this is where I was kind of blushingly groping towards this.
Okay. Blushingly groping, he said.
I'll explain. Go quickly. I know we haven't got too much time, but back then, bookmakers.
So go back a bit from your camera so we can see it properly.
Okay. So back then, bookmakers communicated with each other in a couple of ways because they didn't want the general public knowing what they were talking about because it's an open market. Odds are going up, odds are going down. And bookies bet between each other to arbitrage, to balance out their kind of liabilities. So there are two ways to communicate. One is sign language. So I'll give you a quick 1 to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that also transfers into odds. So evens 11 to 10, 5 to 4, 11 to 8, 6 to 4, 13 to 8, 7 to 4, 15 to 8, 2 to 1, 9 to 4, 5 to 2, 11 to 4, 300 to 37 to 2, 4 to 1, 9 to 2, 11 to 2. So you can go all the way up to the numbers as you need to. But then each odds has a word. So evens would be straight up. 5 to 4 is wrist, 6 to 4 is half arm, 7 to 4 is nevis to row, 4 full arm, 2's a bottle, 3's a carpet, 4's row, 5 jack, 6 X, 7's nevis. Nifty's 50 to 1, double carpets 33. There's so many. That's 50 as well, depending on. So there are so many different ways of communication, and it's all. I was probably one of the last, last of the bookies that did that. Walkie-talkies replaced Tic Tac, and the computers replaced the clerking book. So yeah, it was. But that's kind of what it was like. It was a pretty.
Wow.
For those who remember, the nearest the US viewer remembers to this is the late great John McCurrick when he would appear on NBC Breeders' Cup telecast in the 1980s and 1990s. He would give it the whole kind of top of the head 9 to 4, and no one would have a clue what he was talking about, but brought the whole color of the event to life. And you're probably about the youngest.
There wouldn't be many. No one would use it now. There wouldn't be many people.
Youngest bookmaker now who'd understand that.
Who would have used? I'm sure people know some of it, but I actually worked in it, and it was a cool way of communicating. And there was so many fun things and memories back then of how the betting ring worked, and I do kind of miss that because pari-mutuel wagering doesn't have that energy piece to it, but it has its own pros.
Aidan, maybe we bring it back. I don't know. It could be unique to Santa Anita and Golden Gate, something interesting. But that might, there will be a learning curve there.
Yeah,
Aidan, you're out with us for a drink here because Bill said he needs more bourbon to understand what we're talking about here.
I'm sorry, I have that.
I think we all do. See, and Nick, I was talking about bartending nomenclature, and we've got a whole other language going on here. Aidan, that was impressive. Super impressive. So Aidan was talking about kind of his prior lives working as a bookie. I'm going to start off this conversation on our next drink talking about what I did before bartending, because it's hard for me now after 12 years of being behind the bar to even remember what that was. But when I first moved to New York back in 2004, I actually worked at Starbucks. So I was making a lot of coffee. I quickly developed a very strong affinity for iced coffee. My wife will tell you it's too strong of an affinity. But during the colder months, I actually loved chai lattes. So chai is basically an Indian type of black tea preparation that in combination with the black tea leaves, it calls for green cardamom, cinnamon, clove, some ginger. And you can have the tea just by itself, but it's delicious when it's combined with steamed milk and some sugar or honey. So I'm going to teach you today how to make your own chai tea syrup. I know that sounds complicated. We're going to get into it. And combining that with some hot milk and bourbon, and you've got the perfect pick-me-up for even the coldest days. I know we're not there yet, but we're going to prepare ahead of time. So the first thing we're talking about is making a chai tea syrup. Now, I know this sounds complicated, but if you can make tea and you can make simple syrup, you can make chai tea syrup.
So you like tea, right?
I do, but I drink Builder's tea. Nick will know what that is. It's really cheap stuff. So
yeah, it's just basic. I love it as well. I like Builder's tea. Well, you'd call it English breakfast. We call it Builder's tea. Just like basic, no frills. Nobody telling you it's Lapsang Souchong or
which is probably what I'm about to get into.
Yeah, no, but we're good. We like it.
Bog standard tea. It's like I like instant coffee. I mean, it
does the trick. You get the caffeine,
and it doesn't have you it doesn't have you bouncing off the ceiling. Sure. That's the other thing. What I find amazing when I spend a lot of time with you guys is the amount of the sheer amount of caffeine people can ingest in one sitting. It's terrifying. I mean, how everyone's heart hasn't stopped, I don't know.
I used to when I started at Starbucks, I was able to do multiple shots of espresso throughout the day, and now at this point in my life, I won't be able to sleep throughout the night. So I'm being more conservative with it. The chai tea, it is black tea.
I've always wondered this: is there a difference between the caffeine in tea and coffee? Because I can drink endless cups of tea. I have like one large coffee, and I'm pretty ADD anyway. I'm sure you can all see that, but it really gets to me, and I start to like Nick says, my heart feels like it's going to jump out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, it depends on the type of tea. What's really interesting, I didn't know this until about 2 or 3 months ago, but every tea, whether it's white tea, green, oolong, or black tea, is all made from the same species of tea leaf. So I always thought it was different types of tea leaves, but it's a lot more about the processing. So, white tea leaves are picked very young, and there's really no processing to them. Green tea leaves are basically dried as soon as they're picked, and then you can use them that night. But what happens is, because you're not allowing any oxidation for those green tea leaves, it's keeping all of like the caffeine and the chlorophyll on the inside, all of that is staying intact. So green tea, I think, can have a considerable amount of caffeine, unless I'm getting it wrong. But that's the interesting thing, is that tea itself is really about the processing. Black tea, for instance, is oxidized. So that means it's kind of allowed to sit out and sort of turn to that darker color, the same way if you have mint tea or mint leaves that sit out and they start to turn brown. But what's interesting is that with different types of tea, the way that you steep it and the temperature with which you steep it changes. So for white and green tea, for instance, you usually want about 175 degrees. Best way to do that is allow your water to boil and then let it sit for about 3 minutes before you add the tea to it. And then black and herbal teas really call for rolling boil, so 212 degrees Fahrenheit, and steeping times at around 4 to 5 minutes. So that's what we're going to do for our chai tea today. So
Mark,
really, actually,
cease to amaze me.
This I geek into it. It's kind of like what I was talking about earlier.
Nick, how about you? How long do you steep? I'm not a 4-minute steeper. I'm
not a great steeper. I'm not a hot beverage steward, to be honest with you. I'm just like get it in. And the thing that I used to make me laugh when like we were kids, like people thought that tea was a uniquely British concept, and this would be perpetuated in every advertisement that you would see on TV. So Yorkshire tea would be like, it would have this kind of whole thing about being uniquely British, when the likelihood of it being grown in Yorkshire was pretty slim. This is hilarious.
You can't grow anything in Yorkshire. I mean, no, it's barely.
I had an embarrassing tea moment at Royal Ascot a couple of years ago. I really love chamomile tea, and I thought I was being, incredibly British by putting milk in it.
Ah, rookie.
Yeah.
Black tea. They generally put milk in black tea because it's so bitter, and especially cheap black tea. It's bitter. And here's a little interesting one for you: tea shops in England years and years ago, they used to sell various teas. So wealthy people would buy the tea, they would use it, they would take it back, and then middle class people would buy the tea off them. And by the end of it, when you were from a poorer family, like I guess where I came from, you would have you got like somebody's had like 6 cups of tea out of your teapot. That wasn't a tea bag.
Wow.
Yeah, it's got to have been a bit weaker.
But I definitely think there was that thing there was that thrift with tea must have extended across across every household in the country, kind of post-war, because when I was growing up, my mother, who must have got it off her mother, she'd put a tea bag in one cup, and then she would never ever get a separate tea bag for the next cup. So if there were 2 of you having a cup of tea, the tea bag would go in, and then she'd take it out, put it in the next cup, and pour the water into the tea bag. So, and I still do that to this day, just because it was conditioned into me. So one tea bag would be quite adequate for 2 cups.
You can actually do that.
Those words so many times.
It's an incredible act of meanness, but it's just one that is ingrained into me. So I will do it forever.
No, actually, we had a seminar, believe it or not, for a cocktail class, and they brought in a master tea. He was like a sommelier, but for tea. He actually went to China and studied the whole process. And he said that it's quite acceptable for a lot of types of tea to reuse it at least once. I don't know about sharing it for the entire table, but you're completely justified in reusing that to get the most out of the tea itself. But we're going to kind of do the opposite for the syrup today, because we're going to make a super strong tea. So we're going to use more tea bags. You're not going to want to know. So we're going to start.
How many tea bags generally, Mark, would you use?
So for a regular cup of tea, right, 8 ounces, I would do 1 tea bag. What we're going to do is, because remember that this is a cocktail ingredient, so we want this to be able to stretch through the cocktail, and you still want to be able to taste it at the end. So we're intentionally going to make it very concentrated. So we're going to do 4 tea bags.
This guy's tea like it's gone out of fashion.
But then we're combining it with booze, so we're really going to stretch it. But so guys, to start off, the nice thing, we're going to stretch, not physically, no, because then it's going to tear. But so we've been talking about different types of tea here. The cool thing is that I'm going to show you, I'm going to describe how to make a tea syrup, and you can do that with really any type of tea. So the first thing you want to do, like I said, if you can make simple syrup and you can make tea, you can make this type of syrup. First thing you want to do is start by brewing your tea. So for this black tea, remember that we want near boiling water, so 212 degrees. So literally just let that water come to a boil. We're going to add 4 tea bags for the 8 ounces of water. It's going to be super, super concentrated, taking this off the heat, right? And you're going to let it steep for 5 minutes. And you don't want to let it steep over that amount of time, because the longer that tea steeps, especially with black teas, it's going to continue to bring out the astringent tannins, not the gelatinous tannins we were talking about, just the regular tea tannins. And that's going to make that noticeably more bitter. So the way that we're going to get that increased flavor is through the number of tea bags, not the duration of the steeping time. So that's important. Set a timer. 5 minutes, we're going to take those tea bags out. Make sure you push all the liquid out, because that's going to be important when we add our sugar in. So ideally, you want to get as close to that cup that you started with of water back out of the tea bags. Now you've got your concentrated tea. All you're going to do is add a cup of sugar into it, the same way you make simple syrup. The only difference here is that you've got a tea that you're starting with instead of water. So that's the easiest way to make a fantastic concentrated tea syrup. And now you're ready to put that into a cocktail. So you can do that with green tea. You can do it with Earl Grey tea.
You wouldn't
English breakfast.
You just leave it. You'd leave it to steep. You wouldn't because so if I put a tea bag,
it's not 5 minutes steep.
So if I put my tea bag into a cup, I quite often give it a squeeze to get more out of it.
You could do that at the very end.
Yeah, but
no,
but this is a really concentrated tea. This isn't one you couldn't drink this syrup. I'm sure right off your taste buds.
It's pretty powerful. But again, we're doing that intentionally because we're going to use it in the syrup. So that's the first thing we're going to do for our cocktail is we're going to take our chai syrup. Look at that beautiful color. I'm telling you, you can do this at home. It's so easy. Just start off with your tea, add the sugar. You've got that syrup. We're going to add 1.5 ounces into a nice tempered glass or a mug, because remember, we're going to be putting hot milk into this. You don't want to do a glass that has a thin wall to it. So 1.5 ounces. And now we're going to start heating up our milk. So you can do this in a number of different ways. You can take kind of a glass container like this and put that into the microwave. Yeah. You can put this into a saucepan. Keep an eye on it. The ideal temperature that you're going for is 160 degrees. It's going to be nice and hot, but no danger of scalding the milk or boiling it. That's really what you want. You don't want it to come to a boil. You just want it to get to a nice steamy 160. So what I'm going to do is I have this kind of handy dandy milk frother that at the moment is acting up. It's not going to froth it, but it is going to heat the milk up. So I'm going to turn around and start that real fast.
And that, how do you know, without wishing to be stupid, how do you know when you're at a steamy 160?
So for this, it shuts off automatically. If you're doing it in a saucepan, I would say a digital thermometer, the same one that you would use for other food purposes. Just kind of monitor it, keep an eye. It'll, around 140 or so, you want to really keep an eye, and then take it off when it gets to 160.
Because it gets a skin on it if you leave it in too long.
Exactly. You don't want it to come to a boil, and that's something at Starbucks. I mean, I remember we had customers that wanted it like 300 degrees. It could not be hot enough for them, but ultimately that's not really what we're looking for here. We want it to be nice and hot, but not to the point where it scalds. So in the meantime, that's going to finish pretty soon. We're going to add our bourbon directly to that glass. Now, I tried this out the other day just with the chai syrup and the milk, and it was absolutely delicious. But this is only going to make it better. We're going to add 1.5 ounces of our bourbon right in there.
Aidan, would you have ever had a chai bourbon steamer before?
Well, not the kind you drink anyway.
It's all sorts of new experiences on Cocktails and Conversations. It's always something new.
I never had one. I don't think I've ever had the patience. That's why I'm such a poor cook and obviously a terrible bartender. But I didn't have the patience, Nick. And to be honest, coming from where I come from, I have a pretty bad palate. Everything tastes very similar.
And I think, the good thing about it, this show, is that it's kind of broadened my mind, and
of course,
it's new experiences that I'd never considered before.
But I actually tried a couple, and the reason I watch, other than it's a really fun thing to see your lovely faces while I'm finishing my afternoon at work, but I actually tried a couple of times to make them, and there's no talent there. But I'm going to actually, next time I actually get to see Mark in person, I'm going to ask him for a quick lesson.
Because do you want a chai bourbon steamer? I'd have said, yeah, not sure. But
you might have got in a fight where I come off. If you ask for that,
when I actually see Mark kind of, putting one out there, I think, well, it actually looks quite tasty.
No, it does.
There have been a couple.
If you want a drink, you need someone else to order for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what goes into it and the history, I love it. I mean, we basically just had 20 minutes about tea. You never know what you're going to get on the show.
Fascinating.
I feel like you take away a lot. I mean, a big question here, and I would love to know the answer, is what biscuits do you have with your tea? I mean, that's got to be a whole.
I'm gonna have to toss that over to either Nick or Aidan.
Yeah, we're gonna have differences of opinion, I'm sure, because there are fancy biscuits and there are less fancy biscuits. I think digestives are generally a go-to.
Or rich
biscuits. What about Nice biscuits, Nick?
Nice biscuits, digestives. I think the simpler the better. You don't want too much flavor in the biscuit because otherwise it overpowers the.
What I lack in my ability to cook and make cocktails, I am quite the expert when it comes to kind of cookies and biscuits. So if, like the milk, if you're going to use a chocolate digestive in tea, you have to make sure you're at a maximum of 2.5 seconds. Because if the chocolate layer comes off, you've ruined the cup of tea.
And then you've ruined the cup of tea, Aidan, and then you've got a soggy biscuit, which nobody
wants a soggy biscuit.
Ever goes in the tea and it's the bottom, it's game over. You've got about
game over
30 seconds to drink the cup, or otherwise.
So your biscuit and tea with the 2.5 seconds is like my Oreo and milk.
Exactly. If you too long, it completely ruins it. So
this was a gold mine of a conversation. I'm so happy that I chose the tea one for this specific.
If anyone's still here,
it's just us talking about tea and biscuits. That's it. So guys, a happy thing happened. I thought that my milk frother was broken, but it did indeed froth. But we're not done yet. I'm going to show you a cool thing because we have that foam on top. So first, let's put a cinnamon stick in here. But I'm going to show you a really cool way. You know what? No, I'm going to take that out for a second. I'm going to show you a cool way to do a fancy garnish. So if you have a foam like we do here, or even in one of those egg white cocktails, take something that has a flat edge to it, like a napkin, and put it halfway over or like a third way over. And then you can take some ground up spices and you just do that right over the top. And what's going to happen is you're going to get that beautiful straight line.
You're just giving it a little nutmeg.
Little ground cinnamon there, yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
now I'm going to see if I can show this to you, but you're going to get, oh man, this is tough.
Look at
Come
Yeah,
on.
that's, I can kind of see it.
Cheers. Well done,
A little
Mark.
bit?
Yeah.
Okay. So that is our chai bourbon steamer. I think the drink is going to be great, but the conversation here was so much better. So cheers to you guys. That was
Cheers,
awesome.
Mark. Well done.
Here's to the chai bourbon steamer. Brittany, next time
Water's gone.
I'm in town, you and I are heading out for one of those.
Absolutely. I mean, I've taken so much away from this conversation. I'm slightly bummed, though, that Mark didn't have to shake the cocktail so Aidan could have got his Tic Tac again.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should have done that while the milk was steaming. But yeah, that Tic Tac is something else.
Yeah. It's not easy to do sat down. You're supposed to stand up for it. There's also some quite rude signs as well that I would never show you, but they are quite amusing.
That can be for the after show. The after show.
for the
That's
after
the
show,
B-roll.
show.
As Brittany and I have discovered over the last 22 weeks, we leave the smut to mark on this show. We just try and rise above it.
100%.
It's never intentional, but you know, it happens.
It's tough to follow that incredible drink that you did.
Brittany, are you about to try and artlessly crowbar the fact that there are 7 Breeders' Cup Challenge winning your in races going on this weekend?
Yes, I was.
Is that how you're going to bring them in, Brett?
How funny, man.
I was gonna say before we wrap, Aidan, get us excited for the awesome weekend at Santa Anita. You didn't feel like that was a flawless
No, I thought that was exactly the right way to go. I just had this feeling in my bones. I had this feeling in my bones that that's the way that you were going to take the conversation, and you were trying to find just so tuned in.
So tuned.
Well, I can lead them. We have some amazing Breeders' Cup winning your in races this weekend, Brittany, don't you know? 5 on Saturday and 2 on Sunday. No, it's going to be and it was pretty bad luck with the cancelling the week and the way the year's gone in general with it. But one of the good things is we've ended up with weekends like this one where we've got so many kick-ass races, and we talked about being real fans of the sport as well. It's our jobs, but it's something we do and love. It's this is kind of like one of the better weekends of the year for me, so I'm gonna have some great fun. Shame no one else can be here with me to see it, but I'll still enjoy it nonetheless.
I'll be there.
You'll be there, but we're talking the fans, we're talking the public, not us.
Well, we try and bring it to them as best we can. But
Britt, you're at home this weekend. TVG showing the winning your ins.
No,
she's at Santa Anita. On site.
Yeah.
Yes, so grateful to be live on site at.
That's what I meant by home.
Oh yes,
yeah.
It is home. Yeah, Santa Anita, the very first racetrack I ever went to, actually. But you have arguably the best older racehorse, I should say, in the country running this weekend in maximum security. So, I mean, for you, is it thrilling having those stars in the sport run at Santa Anita?
Yeah, I actually got asked this earlier. It's every morning. It's the equivalent. I don't know. We and all the people watching, hopefully, as real horse fans, we don't see them as horses. We see them as the celebrities they are. So I literally every morning I'll see like the equivalent of LeBron James run past, and I go like, there's Max, there's authentic stuff. It's a really it's a real cool part of being at the track as often as we are. You do get to see these celebrities, and each one of them, is different. They've all got their own little quirks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the access in this game is so underrated. Every time, especially in America, you can get so close to these horses and so close to the riders and the trainers and the personalities, and I don't think it's something we make enough of, to be honest.
Oh, I don't. I mean, Bob is obviously a Triple Crown winning rock star of a trainer, but he's also like one of the most amusing people to be around in the mornings, and obviously not now because we can't have the public and the fans here, but I've seen him doing the coolest things in the morning, making people laugh, and other people who were just close by listening to the stories. And you can't get that in any other game. There'd be 10 credentials and a row of security guards to get through. So no, it's one of the really cool things.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Well, take us out, Nick, with a special photo.
Let's have a look. You told me through it, Britt.
I mean, there's no better way to wrap up our show for Ragnar.
I could show him you, but I don't know if you can see. He's actually there on the couch.
Oh,
this is the boss of California.
Totally unimpressed by his father's interviewing or being interviewed kind of tactics, but he's great.
He gets it.
Yeah, he definitely gets it.
I think he's got a chance in the next Bulldog Derby. I'm really rooting for him.
I mean, I blame Jody completely. For those who don't know, Jody is my right hand. She works with me, and she was in the starting gate, and she completely. She was the assistant starter, so to speak, and she completely stuffed the startup. So he came out of the gate out of position and was beaten. Obviously, after then, he never had a chance. But I think this year, do some more gate training. I've spoken to a couple of trainers, Simon Callahan and Dan Blacker have both given me some tips, and I think we're going to get this. We're going to get this one in the bag for this year.
All right, Ragnar, bringing it home.
Well, from our two beautiful British Bulldogs, we are going to say good night and see you again next week. Our thanks to Victor Espinoza, who was a wonderful, engaging guest earlier on. Aidan, thank you so much.
You're
Mark,
welcome, guys.
Aidan, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, brother. I'll see you soon.
Guys, thank you so much.
Your tea bags and your soggy biscuits. Till next time. And Brittany, to episode 23. Night, everybody.
23.
Oh, more laughter to go.